Foxcatcher. I feel sad talking about this movie. I just talked about the interview, which crazy change of atmosphere. I will be talking about spoilers at the end, but I will give out various warnings before I talk about spoilers. For now, I'll just talk in general about it. I didn't know that this was based on a true story because I'm not from America, so I have no idea what was happening in the 80s with wrestling. I have no idea if this is like common knowledge to people. I don't know if this is like one of those obscure stories that not a lot of people know about, or if this was like a big deal. I'm assuming it was a big deal. I knew nothing about it going in, which is great. I just saw the trailer, and I saw that little teaser trailer, not even the full one. And I highly recommend that you go in without knowing too much about it, if it's possible, unless you're familiar with the story. It was a bit confusing to me at first because, like I said, I didn't know anything about the actual events. I didn't know what was happening half the time. I was sort of figuring it out as the movie went along. And it's a very, I don't want to say simple story, but it's very straightforward. It's about Mark Schultz, who was a professional wrestler in the States, and he won a golden medal at the Olympics in 1984. Yeah, and his brother Dave was also a wrestler. And basically Mark's life sort of revolved around his brother. Everyone always thought Dave was the better one because he's older, and Mark was always his little brother. And he wanted to get away from his brother's shadow, which led him to join Foxcatcher, the training facility. I don't know what to call it exactly. He joined John DuPont from the DuPont family, which apparently was I don't know if it still is, maybe, guess not, but it was the wealthiest family in America. And John DuPont was pretty much obsessed with wrestling, and he wanted to form a wrestling team and take America to the top at the World Championship. So he recruited Mark. And it goes from there, and I don't want to say anything else, but I'm going to talk about it more in the spoiler section, but for now, just watch the movie, because it's really good. It's one of those Oscar bait movies, but it's quite long. I think it was 2.5 hours, but it was actually quite impressive for some reason. I don't even know how to say it. It made me feel uncomfortable. Steve Carell, I'm not even a fan. Like, I watched him in The Office or whatever. Everyone keeps saying that he was the best part in The Office. I wasn't even that big of a fan. It's not my type of humor. I think this is the first time that I've seen him in a serious role. He gave me nightmares, my god. The makeup and the nose and his expression and the way he just looked. Not even saying anything, not even doing anything, the way he looked. Nightmares. I have no idea if this was correct. I have no idea if this was faithful to the real John DuPont. I don't have a frame of reference, but to me, he was very disturbing. And watching the movie, like I said, I didn't know anything about the story. I was sort of figuring it out. I just knew that Steve Carell was going to coach Channing Tatum, and that's it. I had no idea what kind of relationship they were going to have. Is he going to be a good coach, a bad coach? I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea if Mark was going to win gold or not, or go to the Olympics or the World Championship. I didn't know anything, so I was sort of figuring it out as it went along. And I feel like if you don't know anything like I did, it's going to be a bit strange at first, but stick with it, because it gets easier to follow it. It's not that complicated. At first I was a bit confused, like, what exactly is going on. I was confused more about the characters, not so much the story, because the story, like I said, is very straightforward. He goes to Foxcatcher, that's it. But from there, the characters and their motivations, it made me feel so uncomfortable. Every time Steve Carell was on screen, I just felt like something bad was gonna happen. I didn't know what to expect, and I just kept thinking, he's gonna do something, and it's gonna be bad. You know when you watch a movie and it suddenly turns into a horror movie without you realizing it? That's what I expected to happen any minute now. I expected Steve Carell to turn out to be a serial killer and just murder everyone. It was so uncomfortable. It was so disturbing, and I loved it for it. It's been a while since a movie made me feel this way, and my heart was racing, even though nothing was happening. It was quite suspenseful, I guess, just with Steve Carell, just with him being on screen. I felt like things were gonna go wrong, and I felt so bad for Mark Schultz. Channing Tatum did a great job. Again, he looked so different. I think they put like a chin on him because he looked like he had like an extra chin. He bulked up and he looked different. He definitely looked different. Mark Ruffalo also did a good job. Sienna Miller was in it, but it was all about Steve Carell. Like Channing Tatum was good as well, obviously, and I felt really bad for him. Sort of broke my heart watching him, but Steve Carell stole the show. Sort of like how Jake Gyllenhaal did in Nightcrawler. That's what Steve Carell was, which is weird to say because again we're used to seeing him in these comedic roles, and suddenly so dark and so disturbing. And I really like the music and the montages and the pacing. The pacing was a bit unconventional, I guess I would say. They would show you the dates at the bottom of the actual competitions, but then it would jump around so quickly, and I was sort of having trouble keeping up with, okay, how many months is this after he joined Foxcatcher? Like, what? But it's actually quite easy to figure out where you are based on how they talk to each other. And that's all I have to say. I will have to go into spoilers now because I can't leave this review without saying spoilers. And please, 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 if you haven't seen it, stop watching, stop and go away because it's worth it. This movie is definitely worth it to watch it without knowing anything. Not even the trailer, nothing. If you know the story, then you know the story. But if you don't, just know that it's about a wrestler that wants to do well, and he doesn't want to disappoint his coach, who is fucking weird. Let's just put it that way, and that's all you need to know. Now spoilers, big warning, spoilers ahead. Stop watching. The cocaine scene. I don't know why that's the first thing that popped into my head. I kept expecting John DuPont to just, I don't know, throw him out of the helicopter or something. That scene sort of broke my heart. Like, you're his coach, you're giving him cocaine, and he doesn't even know how to do it, and he's there looking for some sort of approval and asking, how do I inhale this exactly? And he's looking at him like he's a fucking idiot, saying, didn't you see how I did it? And it just made me feel so uncomfortable. It was a long scene, and they just kept repeating the words, like ornithologist, philanthropist, philatelist, something. They just kept repeating it and repeating it. And I just felt so bad, and I kept thinking, oh my god, is he gonna get hooked now? Is he gonna be on cocaine 24/7 now? I honestly didn't know if he was gonna win. I'm glad he won. He won the World Championship. He did not win the gold in Seoul, which I didn't expect he would. And throughout the whole movie, I just kept waiting for shit to go down. I just kept waiting for it to just explode, and it did. Last 15 minutes of the movie, everything just went down, and when he pulled out that gun, I didn't think he was gonna shoot him. I really didn't. And then just 3 times, he shot him 3 times, not once, not twice, 3 times, and just drove off. I sort of expected Dave to make it. Like I said, I didn't know anything about the story. I sort of expected Dave to make it. Obviously, he didn't. He died in front of his wife. And from what I read, I went on Wikipedia, and because I wanted to see if there was anything more to the story. Apparently, John DuPont just locked himself in his mansion, and they had to wait for like 3 days for him to come out. They turned off his heat, and he had to go outside to to fix his radiator, and that's when they caught him. So messed up. That movie just made me like, oh, it was so dark. It sort of stepped on my soul a little bit, and poor Dave and poor Mark. The way it ended, thank God it ended when it did, because I was about to cry. When you see him about to enter a cage fight, and you remember the conversation from earlier, that was so sad. That was so sad when he was entering the cage, and I just kept thinking, please, I don't want to see him in a cage fight. Like, after everything that he's been through, it's so sad to see him in one of those situations, because you know that it's low to be a cage fighter after being a wrestler, you know what I mean? Like, they were having the conversation earlier when they were watching this cage fight on TV, and one of the other guys that he was training with said, I feel sorry for him, he used to be legit, and now that's Mark. I'm glad that it got away before he actually started fighting. And then the text came up saying Dave died, and Mark now owns a wrestling facility, or I guess like a training facility. He's not a cage fighter anymore, which is good. And John DuPont died in 2010. I think he was 72. He died in prison. And I looked up his plea, because I was like, there's no way he was going to plead guilty, right? And he pled insanity. But they convicted him, saying that he does have a mental condition, I guess, but he didn't know what he was doing. It wasn't insanity. He knew what he was doing. So, this review is way longer than it should be. I just keep stopping to, like, think about it. Very good movie, very good movie. I think Steve Carell definitely deserves an Oscar nomination. Maybe not Channing Tatum, even though he was really good, but Steve Carell stole it for me. I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know what I was expecting. I was expecting, I guess, the typical sports movie. I don't really watch those, but I was expecting the typical, I'm your coach and you're my athlete and this is a drama and we're gonna work hard, you know, and then at the end they'll win. I was not expecting this movie to be so dramatic, so dark and suspenseful, and that ending definitely, it was just a big build-up to those 15 minutes at the end, and it was worth it. And I hope that if you're still watching it, you've seen it, because I just spoiled everything for you. So yeah, that's it. I'm done with this movie. It was way too good, and it's one of those Oscar bait movies, I guess, but I'm okay with it. It was really good. It was worth it, and very dramatic. And Steve Carell, just nightmare-inducing. That's it.